Hey, it's Mike here, and today we're going to cover some vegan-related news. Why not? And in particular, we're going to have a few just really stupid stories that don't matter at all, but we're going to cover them anyway, as well as some that are more important and even a little bit of research in there. But let's just start off with a stupid one, literally having to do with a hot dog eating contest. Famous hot dog eater Joey Chestnut was kicked out of, or really blacklisted from, the Coney Island 4th of July hot dog eating contest because he was recently sponsored by Impossible Foods, who of course have their own sausages and are considered a rival. And I just have to say, him being kicked out of that hot dog eating contest, not eating like 50 or whatever hot dogs, probably, added 5 years to his life, so I would consider that a win. But this is just the second story of vegan-related entities being kicked out of food competitions. We had that vegan cheese that was, unethically, unjustly kicked out of the Good Food Awards. I have covered that in the past, but let's move on. Next, in the realm of cruelty-free makeup, something I'm really overdue for doing a video on, we have a class action lawsuit against Paula's Choice, which has claimed to be a cruelty-free company for years. I've seen them around, I've seen people use them, and I've seen their little cruelty-free bunny logo. Well, are they a bunch of liars? That's what a class action lawsuit filed in the state of Washington claims. And the lawsuit itself claims that Paula's Choice has been saying that they're cruelty-free, which means that across the world as a company, they're not doing animal testing. But they say, quote, while portraying itself in the United States as being cruelty-free, Paula's Choice opted to import and sell its products in China, where testing on animals was mandatory for companies like Paula's Choice during the class period. So if you bought Paula's Choice as a vegan or someone trying to buy cruelty-free products during this period that they were selling to China, yeah, you can perhaps sign up for that. But if you then spend your winnings on more Paula's Choice products, then you're just a bad person. Anyway, moving on to this study, asking the question, do little traffic light warning labels about the environment affect how much meat people buy? They looked at 1,300 meat eaters and had them sort of buy stuff for mock meals, and the result is that having that red light on meat indicating a higher environmental impact led to about a 10% decrease in meat purchases. Feel free to spitball in the comments for any labels that would lower sales even further. Personally, I think that a pus count in large red lettering across the package would decrease sales quite a bit. Anyway, they conclude, quote, negatively framed traffic light labels seem to be effective at discouraging meat selection. Now to the next topic, which I did recently cover in a YouTube short. If you haven't seen it, why not touch on it here? The headlines were saying things like, vegans are slowly killing themselves, and vegan meat leads to an early heart death. Well, that is actually from this study out of Brazil, as well as the UK, on ultra-processed foods as a food group, and that included things like hard alcohol, as well as, pastries and sugar and just all of that crap. Some of those foods like treats likely even included things like eggs and dairy, and as Plant-Based News found out from the head researcher, yeah, of course, this wasn't even a study aiming to evaluate if the food was vegan or vegetarian, but the headlines went completely off the rails, dishonestly reporting on this study. The media really needs a spanking. Ow! Crap! No! Because meat alternatives, well, in the ultra-processed group, only made up 0.2% of calories, which is just extremely low. Yeah, so the news reporting was totally bogus, and I have a couple more points that weren't covered by the news. First of all, the main finding of the study was that for every 10 percentage points increase in plant-sourced non-ultra-processed food consumption was associated with a 7% lower risk of cardiovascular disease and a 13% lower risk of cardiovascular disease death. Also not in the news, unprocessed animal products as a whole group were associated with increased heart disease mortality and cardiovascular disease mortality. That includes stroke as well. All right, and then we also had a recent study come out. It's just a little story here. They asked, are people who are on a vegan or vegetarian diet nutritionally literate? And well, it turns out that 74% of them have good nutrition literacy scores, which is nice to hear. And that's likely why vegans in general nowadays, from study after study, are showing that their B12 levels are the same as people that eat meat, and in some cases, even slightly higher. And the study also looked at overall healthy eating index, and we can see that, yeah, the people on a vegan diet had the highest index of all at about a score of 80, followed by vegetarians and semi-vegetarians. And just a side note, the average healthy eating index score from another study here in the US was 50. So yeah, good job, vegans. Anyway, moving on to the next stupid story. Apparently, a vegan Instagrammer woman discovered that her boyfriend was cheating by finding a pepperoni pizza purchase on a restaurant app that I guess they shared, or she was checking in on him, stalking him in some way. And it turns out because her boyfriend is vegan and wants to be vegan, isn't quitting or anything, he was actually buying it for a lady friend that he was being unfaithful with. So they say. I don't know. I just thought it was a funny one. So being vegan gives you an enhanced ability to detect infidelity? Maybe. We need more research. Anyway, we can move on to more bird flu news. It's not exciting, but I figured we could cover it because there have been some developments. We'll do it real fast. We're talking about H5N1, the highly pathogenic bird flu that was found in much of the cow's milk supply in the US recently. I did a short with some updates, such as how a second US human case has been discovered in Michigan, but we have even more going on here. First of all, it's reached cows in my home state of Iowa, so thanks. It spread to a couple more states as well, and then perhaps one of the bigger study results was looking at immunity in people, and it turns out that, yeah, we have like little to no immunity as a population against this H5N1 bird flu virus. And again, that's crappy because 50% of the known cases have resulted in fatality or death, which is horrible. And then every time that a human gets this, we're giving it another opportunity to learn how to infect our immune system, to adapt to that. And if successful, then it can become more pathogenic. Anyway, perhaps the bigger, newer bird flu news is that H5N2 has infected humans for the first known time ever. A person in Mexico who likely was exposed to some poultry because there's been local outbreaks there, but that's not for sure yet. But a Johns Hopkins influenza expert points out to this person having a lot of comorbidities that could have increased their risk of dying. And to that I say, oh yeah, so does half of America, period. Not just the United States, but like also Mexico at this point. And anyway, we also have somebody from the Philly Children's Hospital posing quite an important question among experts of whether the H5N2 virus has mutated in some way that has made it easier to spread to humans. That's the main concern here, so we're probably going to see more research on that in the near future. But yeah, this is just one more reason that farming animals risks the entire future of humanity with these various pathogens. But then finally, to end on a positive note, well, this is about a month ago. I didn't cover it. We had a quite large study showing that vegetarian and vegan diets, from a review of a lot of the literature, result in lower rates of all of these diseases that I'm constantly talking about: heart disease, diabetes, etc. But yeah, nail in the coffin on this being healthier, which is a really ironic way to say it. But this is something that looked at 50 studies, and from NBC News, a consensus emerged. These plant-based eating patterns were associated with lower risk of cancer, heart disease, particular narrowing of arteries, lower prostate cancer, gastrointestinal cancer like colon cancer, and also lower things like body weight, inflammation, and bad cholesterol. All right, let me know down below what you think about all these stories. If there was anything about these stories that you know that I didn't mention, I always love to learn more. And of course, feel free to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Go get your Paula's Choice money.